I think when I was a small child, she was in her 80s. No, late 70s. And so like she was, either way, she was wrinkly, and she used to have like these really bony, I'm sure she still has bony fingers, but she used to have these really bony, wrinkly fingers. And I used to just like stare at her hands as they played the piano, and it would just fucking mesmerize me because she, her fingers knew where to go. And I was just like fucking shocked by it. Like it didn't make any sense to me. And so I always, like, every time I saw her, I'd ask her to play the piano for me, and she got me like a little like keyboard or whatever. But she lived at my aunt's house for most of my life, and my aunt had this bitchin' grand piano in this humongous hall / living room. I don't know. My aunt had past tense because I don't really keep up with her. She had a fuck ton of money when I was a kid, so she lived in like a fucking mansion, and she had this room that was just like huge, like vaulted ceilings. I was a child and they felt like they were like 30 feet high, so I don't know what they are really, but it was this huge fucking room, and there was this huge grand piano in there, and my grandma would play the fuck out of it, and I'd just be like, this is great. It was awesome. I'd just sit there and I'd stare at her doing it, and then she'd like encourage me to press keys or whatever, and I'd like do whatever the fuck I did that wasn't good, but it was there. You know, it was just like an immersive experience of enjoying music with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know how long you expected this answer to be, but I guess if I was gonna take your question as a when did I start making music of my own, I used to hang out with this guy named Paul. I'm not going to dox him, but his name's Paul. And he was really into music. He's kind of like a fucking prodigy. This guy can play like any fucking instrument or whatever. But when we were kids, I used to go over to his house for the summers because my mom would work. So instead of going to like daycare or whatever, I'd just go to my buddy's house and we'd fuck around all day. And he used to... he had like a pinball machine. It was fucking sick. But his oldest brother, I think, downloaded a copy of Acid Pro 2.0 off of Kazaa. And we fucking learned how to do that, man. We were just making samples, recording dumb shit, and just having fun in the summers. And then it was weird, man, but it was fun. And then, like, I think when I was like 8 or 9, we figured out how to like put it on a CD, and then I brought it over and put it on like the family computer, and then me and my brother did dumb shit with it, and that was kind of the beginning of creating music for me.
Mm-hmm. In what?
Acid Pro 2.0. It was by Sonic Foundry.
Acid Pro. I didn't take it as a name of the app. I took it as a drug. Then you were like 8 years old. I was like, okay, wait a second. That's some serious pro in that acid.
Didn't know that about the United States. It's just readily available to these fucking. It's crazy.
Not crazy. I need to look into that. It's what a sequencer. I take it as a sampler built in there.
It's a DAW. It's one of the first DAWs. I have. We're recording, but who cares? I have if the company comes after me for this, it'll look bad for the company more than it will for me. But I have a cracked version of Acid 4.0, which came out in like probably 1999. Mm-hmm. I can send that to you so you can just see what it's like. I still have it on my computer just for fun.
On the Windows, it still runs?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't run. It doesn't come. I think it comes with like a piano sampler with it. And then everything else was like VST ones. So you're going to have to search for original, like OG VSTs. But I think I have some too. I think I have a folder of them. Yeah.
And then you switched from that to Reason, or was there a station between?
I used Acid 4.0 and pretended I was better than everybody who downloaded Fruity Loops for free. until college. And then this British dude who was studying abroad at a junior college, which seemed odd to me, but he was like, we were taking a music class which used Digital Performer. This is like 2009. That used Digital Performer and I think Reason 3. But I focused on Digital Performer, but Reason was like the means for instruments, I think. I don't really remember. But he was like, "You don't even have Reason?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Why don't you just download it?" I was like, "I don't know. I didn't really know." I think there's like when torrents were like first getting bigger, and I was like scared by them because I'd seen what they did to Kazaa and LimeWire and FrostWire, and so I was like, I'm scared, like I don't want to get in trouble or whatever. And then he was like, "Nah, fuck that shit. I got you." And he gave me a USB with fucking Reason 4 on it, and then used that until I felt more comfortable doing bad things, and then got Reason 5, and then had Reason 5 until 2018, I think.
Oh wow,
2018 or 19, and I was like, fuck, I gotta get serious about this. I'm gonna buy, and I'm really gonna do it, you know. And fucking, I got Reason 10, and then I've purchased everyone I come out with ever since.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Imagine like that's a long time, but they're only on Reason 12.
I switched from 5 to 10. Just skipped all the shenanigans. And you stayed there for what reason? Like, what reason kept you in Reason?
It was the only thing that somebody taught me how to use in that class, I guess. I like learned how to use it, and then like I spent a really long time getting to know all the different things in it. And then when people told me I'm fucking up and I should have Ableton, or why don't I buy an Apple and get Logic, I was like, fuck, man, like I don't know, like I've put a lot of hours and a lot of love into this thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I owe it to him, you know, after stealing it for so long, that I gotta do big things. No, I'm just kidding, but but you know, like I don't know if it's like a weird sense of loyalty or whatever the fuck it is, but the I don't know, just Reason felt like the right thing, and nobody I knew had Ableton, and it didn't seem reasonable to switch, because I was having so much fun with Reason that I was like, whatever, and I feel like confident in it. And I think when I was like in my 20s and shit, I was like hurting for money because of bad decisions I make with money. So like, nah, dude, I'm not gonna fucking buy a new program I don't know how to use, and then fucking that's $200 I could have spent, or whatever the fuck it was, like $400. I think they used to be more expensive, like $400 or something. And I was like, I'm not gonna spend that. Like, I never spend that kind of money unless it's like, you know, from going on like vacation or something, you know. So like, I just talked myself out of ever switching, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I have Ableton now. I've opened it like twice, but I have it. And I think RTO said he's going to show me how to use it. So shout out to RTO. He's going to teach me someday.
And would you say it influenced your workflow in any way? Like, or did it just click with you?
I don't know. I feel like I'm sure it had to, but I don't know how. Like, I think it influenced me to remain digital, just because there's so many options and Reason for sound creation as well as like sampling, that like it never clicked that I should go to hardware. So I think if anything, it influenced me to like never bother buying a sampler or like anything like that. And I'm pretty much like, I have everything's kind of put away at the moment, but I have like MIDI keyboards and shit, but I don't know why, but I've always had more fun making beats like on the go. And so I just have like my backpack and my laptop on it, and like coffee shop, or my buddy and I used to, a supermarket up where I used to live had like a little coffee shop spot to sit down. Like nobody ever sat down there because it's a fucking supermarket, and who wants to hang out in a supermarket? So my buddy and I would just go in there and just make beats all day. Free Wi-Fi and shit. So that was fun. And what else? Yeah, I think that's all I got for that answer, man.
What is your routine then? Like, what's your project approach, track approach? How do you start? When do you start?
I've been doing this thing where I wake up at 4:00 in the morning, because there's like a piece there. Nice. I feel like that was like a sample that you should have like hit a button to say nice. Oh man. There's a piece at 4 a.m. that I really like, and so I fuck with music then, or try to at least, and then I usually leave for work early enough to get to the parking lot at work for an hour early, and then I use that hour to like kind of work on music and shit too. But I think that's kind of been a thing that I've always done, just because of like anxiety and ADHD. My brain tells me that if I don't get somewhere super early, then it's going to suck. I'm going to be stressed the fuck out the whole time. And then, yeah, and that's usually when I work on music. But if I'm, I refuse to say anything else that will possibly damage my current situation that I'm in at work. But I work on my lunch sometimes. I make beats and shit.
So you work in those chunks in the mornings, majorly.
In the morning, and then in the
lunch.
In the lunchtime. Yeah.
Do you take it home? Like, do you work on like polishing at home in the evenings, or do you take it to the next morning?
Usually to the next morning, unless it's like a project that I'm working on with somebody else. Like when me and Gigi were doing shit, I just had my laptop on me everywhere I went, and like that way I could try to like send shit that I needed to send, or finish ideas that I wanted to finish, or like when I did Simple Pack with Piccolo, I was like, laptop was like practically attached to my waist, and just like every second I had, I was like making something.
And I take it you work therefore like in short bursts, something like what, an hour? How long is a session for you?
It really depends. I'm not good at focusing, hence the HD. Hence the high quality, high definition, adult deficit attention disorder. Wow, so many words. It's hard for me to focus for a long time, but so I never really like plan on like making blocks, because it's never going to go according to plan. But I can definitely sit on my laptop and work on music for like 8 hours straight. I just need to have that 8 hours free, which doesn't happen a lot.
It rarely happens, right?
Yeah.
And how many sessions, like for how long do you work usually on one track? Like, is it a week? Do you get do you stash them away and continue later?
I feel like for a long time I would try to finish a song before I moved on to the next, and I think that hurt me rather than helped me, because I would just sit there and be stuck and just listen to a loop for like hours and be like, how do I make it feel better? And I kept like turning up the volume. My ears are like fucking screaming. And I think that there's your body gets stuck in like patterns, right? So like in my mind, whether consciously or unconsciously, I spend a bunch of time on a song in one go. I've only allowed myself to learn from one song versus if I start multiple different things, but they're cool ideas, I can come back to them later. But I'm also really bad because of ADHD at going to things that I started earlier. So I have like in my folders for beats or whatever, like 2023 has like really good solid ideas. Oh shit, got the gangster lean on. There we go. 2023 has like really solid ideas and they're mostly done. 2022 has very similar. 2021 is like, I probably saved shit that was like a 4-bar loop, but I was like in that moment, I liked it, you know? And then as you go down the years, like 2013 is like 300 songs long, but maybe 20 of them are actual like songs. And the rest is just like exploration or whatever it was, you know? But I don't think that I'm skilled enough at this moment where I can set a block of time and be like, all right, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., I'm going to work on beats and I'm going to finish 3 beats. Because it doesn't work like that for me. But I have too much fun creating sounds and creating synthesizers that it's not realistic to tell myself I'm going to finish something in a certain amount of time.
And that's actually, would you say how you escape the loop as well? It's like basically in it. That you just keep a lot of ideas open and kind of take in from other projects.
I'd be lying if I said that's true, but sorry, this is the worst interview ever, dude. I don't know what you were thinking, but you were wrong. But I'm just kidding. I usually just have fun and I'm not really focusing on trying to release projects or trying to do anything. I think for me as an individual, I love making music and I like making shit, and I would enjoy being one of those people who can like make more than one project or like 5 projects a year. Like a lot of people we fuck with drop projects like every other month, and I'm like, fuck, dude, I could never. I have no idea how they do that. I don't know if it's drive. It's probably drive, but like, I feel like I'm pretty fucking passionate about music, but there's nothing in my brain that will let me say either A, something's done, B, that I should release it. And I don't know. I'm in my head a lot, man. So maybe that's what it is.
How do you get out of that space? Like I assume sometimes do you get yourself into like blocks, into like this paralysis sometimes?
Nah, not really. There's stuff I make that I'm like, cool, I really like this. And then there's stuff I make where I'm like, I like this so much, I want other people to hear it. You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of stuff I make is, I really like this. And then stuff that everybody hears is like, people might like this. I should share it in case it means something to them the same way it means something to me, you know? So I don't know. That's me, man. That's what I do.
Is it fairly simple for you to stay in this like productive state of making music basically daily? I assume.
Yeah, for the most part. I feel like life gets in the way because, like, how does it not? If you're, if you're not like young and have like little responsibilities, I feel like as your responsibilities in the real world stack, your time for like things you love and passions kind of like dwindles. And so I feel like I'm always on a mission to I don't know, like take advantage of the small moments I have. Cause like, I feel like for a long time, there was a point where I was like, oh man, I only have an hour of downtime. There's no point in opening up Reason. I'm not going to do anything. And now it's like, dude, I have 10 minutes. I can make a synthesizer. And I could probably put together a little like couple notes, throw a couple chords in just so like when I open this back up again, it'll open up those chords where I left off. You know? So I feel like my process is chaos and I'm here to grab a hold and hang on for dear life. Yeah, that's it, man.
Escaping the loop, especially since you're so strong on probably because you're so strong on the arrangement part. Is it just like natural? Do you develop it like supernaturally? What are your tools to go about arrangement to make it like a song? Because I know you for massive arrangements.
Yeah, but they're not even like good. Like you have this amazing sense that I know what I'm doing and that I have a plan. I don't. I just kind of keep playing. But I think as far as how I do arrangements, it's very elementary. I have a lot of room to grow there, and I think I can learn a lot from working with you and everybody else in the Sidechain crew, you know. But I feel like my arrangements are very. I don't arrange things like you would a song. I arrange things like you would like a story, but with no ending. Is how I like to imagine it, because I feel like I try to keep an idea that I began with throughout the song, whether it comes back intermittently or stays throughout like a loop or a sample or one note or one chord that's very prominent throughout the song. But I think I'm not really good at transitioning back into things that I started with. So yeah, I think I just have fun. I'm trying not to hold myself to like really strict rules, I guess, when it comes to making music, because I feel like that kills the fun for me. Like I really enjoy just making weird shit that sometimes has like a general sense of consciousness to it, and other times it's just really cool fucking chords and you just stare at a wall for 6 hours. Like that's fine with me. That's totally okay.
That is some tasty stuff that's from the bake sale at Lowe's.
And I take it this constructing of sound is a major part of your process as well. At least you seem to enjoy this a lot. Let's talk about this whale sound of yours.
So I feel like my buddy who first got me the program, his older brother was really into techno. I didn't really care for techno. There was definitely techno shit that I liked, but I wasn't like, this is everything. But he was really intense on always writing your own patterns for drums and not using loops, which like, I think because I listened to him for the first 10 years of making music, I held myself back a lot because I didn't learn from loops. And I think people learn from loops. Like you listen to things, you get the feel for it, then you chop it up and you make it your own. For me, I was just like, no loops, no whatever. And I just fucking made my own loops, and it made it very, very hard to break out of my shell because I had no influence, if that makes sense. And I feel like I wasn't listening to a lot of music either to really I guess, encourage me to grow or encourage me to try new things. So I've kind of put that onto synthesizers. So all of when I load up an instrument in Reason since I could remember, I load it up as an initialized patch and I go from there, because I don't want it to sound like You know, like when you hear a song and you're like, oh shit, they use GarageBand strings, or like, oh shit, I think somebody, I forget who it was. I think it was Complete. I was like, oh man, yeah. He shared a song that he made that was like a bad song or whatever when he was like from back in the day, and I was like, man, that GarageBand clap, dude, it haunts me. You know, and so like in my mind, like these sounds that come preloaded into these synthesizers on Reason are like the bane of my fucking existence, and I never want to hear them again. So I decided the only way to make sure I never have to like search through 100 different sounds is if I just learn how to make my own. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like that's where that kind of comes from in creating the well sounds, as you say.
And your favorite instrument, therefore, like amongst the synths?
I think Europa is a lot of fun to use on Reason, and then also Complex One are my two favorite go-tos. Mm-hmm. But there's so much shit. Like, I think back in the day, I really was into Thor, and that's like their.
Oh, right.
Yeah, before there was Europa, there was Thor, mm-hmm. And I think I don't like the sound of it now because it doesn't have the same shit that Europa does. Like Europa has like built-in effects, and I think mm-hmm. because Europa doesn't have that, like the sound just pisses me off because I don't want to like load all the effects. Yeah, I don't want to load all the effects in afterwards. Mm-hmm. I just want to have it all in one box. So I feel like Europa is the easiest thing to just jump into. And then Complex One is fun because I learned how to essentially how one would navigate like a modular synthesizer by using that. Mm-hmm. By using that instrument. So I think those are like my two go-tos, mm-hmm. for sure.
Thor was quite in a like semi-modular space, right? Because you could exchange the filters and the engines and connect engines and mix them all together.
I think everything in Reason is kind of that way, to be honest. Like there's a lot of options for wiring and mm-hmm. voltage flow and all that. Like that's very regular for Reason. So I feel like, I don't know. I don't really know. I think it's just because like Europa has a more like, how to say, like a more like modern sound to it that mm-hmm. I'm drawn to it. And because I used Europa, or because I used Thor for like 10 years, like I'm like, all right, I don't want to try to make shit in mm-hmm. Thor. Like mm-hmm. I like seeing what the wave files are doing and then adding, modulation matrix to this and that, and it's more visual. It's just more fun. And then mm-hmm. Complex has a vector scope on the bottom right of it that's really fun to like watch and pay attention to where you put the wires affect the sound, through shapers mm-hmm. or filters and all that.
Do you sometimes take it back and then rewire it as a starting point? Not even that.
I haven't done that in years. So cool. I haven't done that in years. I mean, I have. That's a lie. On hardware, yes. Mm-hmm. On hardware, just because I don't have any hardware that's like has built-in sounds into it. So whenever I see those, it's like at somebody's house or at like a synth show or whatever. And so like, yeah, of course I'll peruse the presets and fuck them up. But as mm-hmm. far as like anything that I've made or released in the past like 5 years, no.
Like the favorite audio effects off the top?
Off the top, I guess my favorite audio effects is probably the reverb and Reason, the bass one that's been there for forever. Yeah, just because it's really fun and it has EQ and gate options within the plugin itself, so you can literally flip it around and use CV to change what affects the gate and mm-hmm. all that. So it's mm-hmm. like It's a lot of fun.
Oh, right. That's the benefit of Reason as such, right? The modulation, basically the free modulation between the devices that you can send.
Yeah, absolutely. The sends and outs, all of that is based on actual hardware. So on the window for the instruments, you can hit tab and it'll flip it around. You can choose which way you put the wires. I think there's a way to like right click and say route to, and that's probably easier, but I think it's because I've been using it for so long, I just flip it around and then move the wires. It's fun to see them wiggle in and shit as they go up, you know? It's a good time.
And that chordy thing that you showed in the last session, this amazing chords progression tool, is it something
chord
new?
Sequencer. Yeah, the chord sequencer. Yeah, I just found out about that like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I don't even know. I forget what it's called. Let me look it up. I have recently.
How were you working before that?
Before the chord sequencer? Still using Chordy, just playing around with what I had. There's a scales and chords thing that's really fun to mess around with too, and that kind of like keeps you in a scale, but it's not very like you can't really move around and mix up scales with ease. And then so I was usually using it for like arps and creating like really cool arpeggios because like I just put like a fucking 10 voice fucking chord in there and I would have to use like both hands for and then throw like an arpeggiator on it, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I think it's just called Chord Sequencer by Reason. It's the thing that's really fun. It's fun to make stuff on. Gives you new ideas, and like it shows you what you're playing on the keyboard or like what chords you're playing, what they look like. So like I don't know, kind of helps. I like
absolutely. I was very like I'm looking for this on an iPad now. There's a couple of apps that work with like chord progressions and transitioning to especially transitioning to other chords from wherever you are. Just haven't seen anything as simple, as beautifully made as this chord sequence.
It's really clever, man. It's really fucking clever, and it's a lot of fun to mess with too, because like there's so many different options. So like before we jumped on here, I was like, fuck it, I haven't made like weird cinematic shit in a while. So it has an option for soundtrack and classical chord sets, and then I clicked on Tranquil Recollection, and then it just gave me fucking 16 chords, and I was just messing around with them before I jumped on with you, and it's fun, man. It's a good time.
It's a great idea booster.
For sure, absolutely. It really helps you like put things together and then kind of build from there. And I think that's like, so what I do is there's like it shows like a little piano roll, and as you click on each of the chords or as the chords play in the sequencer, it'll show on the piano roll where they're playing. And then I'll like open up another instrument and like play like a lead, and I'll just focus on the keys that I'm seeing highlighted, and then that makes me feel like more comfortable actually playing along with things. And then I'll take use the 1-3-5 rule and kind of like find little interactions between those. And so I think that's like that's been my workflow as of late.
Nice. Do you have like anything else in your workflow that is like this quick
like
hacks?
I don't know what hacks really are, but I know that I like building a fun way to build chords that I would do before I got this was I would take like the journey and shit like that. I built a lot of chords that I used around this idea. Actually, I built a lot of synths based on this chord idea. I'm trying to think of the way to say it. I was talking with Lincoln recently, and I like wrote it all down, and he was like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, it makes sense now. And I was like, what makes sense? But it's just like, I think of, I guess, like keyboard playing as like mathematical. So like there's ninth chords, and those chords, don't quote me on this because I'm not in any way a music theory teacher or a piano teacher at all, but this is how my brain remembers it. For ninth chords and seventh chords, you have your bass note, so like C, and then you count up the keyboard 7 half steps, and that's your seventh chord. So that's the first and last on that chord. And then usually it's 2 half steps or 3 half steps from there in either direction on those fingers is going to give you 3 notes that will match enough together to create a chord, and so on. So you can do it with ninths, and you can do it with 11ths, and all of that shit. So I just usually play around with that, and then once I find a chord, I'll kind of like play with it, the keys back and forth, and find out how they all kind of like work together, and then usually come up with like a lead or like some sort of melody that way. But I don't know, everybody kind of does it in an own little way, and I feel like the way I do it is like semi-educated because I've been in multiple piano classes. It just doesn't retain. Nothing ever fucking sticks. And so like and if it does, I don't recognize that it sticks, and it's just become natural, which is super cool if that's what's happening. But I have no evidence to back it up.
Cool. This is something I'm still very, very much afraid of. Every time okay, let's try to approach this scientifically. No. Let's push buttons.
Yes.
Why?
I think there's math in everything, man, and I think that's like one of the things that like either scares people about math or helps them like things about math is that like there's patterns.
You get 3 as a magic number.
And numbers and everything. And so once you figure out how to put those numbers where they need to go, it'll make sense. You know? But the 1-3-5 rule is a solid chord concept that like the first, third, and fifth keys away from each other, like half steps. I don't know if you know what half steps and whole steps are. Shout out to Uncle Nearest. Shout out to Bear, Stolen Drums, and Piccolo for getting me a little bottle of something sassy. Appreciate you guys.
Yes.
Cheers.
How much time do you spend on this, like shaping the sound, then coming up with the bulk of it, and then mixing, mastering, polishing? What's the ratio?
Spend a lot of time. Depending on how I feel about it. You know, I think that's like the feel of any song that you make. You know, sometimes you work and it's like fast, and I'm trying to think streamlined. You know, it's just like you don't even realize that you're like almost done with a song, and you're like, "Fuck yeah, I'm done with this shit already. That's dope. This is cool. I like what I've made. This is great." And then other times, hold on, let me get some water. Uncle Nearest was a little spicy on that one. So sometimes I'll like play with something, and then as far as structure of the song and like instruments in the song, it's very simple. So I'll be like, how do I make it more complex? So I'll throw like a bunch of automation on synthesizers. So like a lot of like the synth only music that I share with you guys, or that I share with you or other people, is it's easier to show you, but on Reason, it's like you have the MIDI notes, or like you play in your MIDI, that, and then like I'll have like 10 more lanes of just automation where I'm just like twisting one knob and like making it sound different. That way it's like, to me, that's creating different things to really get out of the synthesizer itself. And not only that, but like really, it just makes it more fun to me, because like the synthesizer can have like a weird thing that comes up with the resonance, or the filter opens up, or you know, that there's an LFO that comes in and brings in another element of the synthesizer you didn't hear until like minute 3. Like all that shit is where I like to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it doesn't, I think so far, however long we've been doing this, one thing for certain is that I'm not good at discipline. Hence, not that we're learning well on the piano very well. Hence, not having like time structured on how long it takes for me to complete things, and just being super chaotic about it and enjoying the time that I have. But yeah, depending upon what I'm working on and how I feel about it, there's shit that I've released that's one synthesizer, and it's just changes throughout the whole thing. You know, there's things that have like 10 different synthesizers in it, and they're all doing a little bit of something to add some sort of character to the song, you know? So it's like, it just depends on how it feels, I guess, if that makes sense.
The reason I'm asking is to see. So, for example, NELAC said he has no definitive answer to this. Basically, along the same lines, that it depends on the project.
That makes me feel so fucking cool, because the fact that A, you'd even try to compare me to NELAC, and B, that he would have a similar answer to me is fucking crazy.
It's super interesting.
NELAC, that man is a fucking genius. That guy reasons like there's no other. That guy is like fucking incredible, man. I've never heard a NELAC song that was like, could have done something better. Never felt like that.
People I know that work with Reason are very strong on arrangements again. They have like a lot of change, a lot of variation in their songs. Just very different too.
True. But I don't know. I make things so fucking differently than I think NELAC does. And I know I make things very differently than how Piccolo does. It depends on the ear. You know, I think both of them have incredible ears as far as like hearing things that need to go somewhere. You know, like so many different people use Reason. I think they have a really good ear. And I think in the last year or two, I've really been growing my ability to hear things and where it needs to go there. But I don't think I'm anywhere near where they're at. But I think that I'm enjoying where I'm at, and working my way. You know, maybe I'll get closer to their skill level in time. But I'm enjoying the way I do whatever I do. In the meantime.
Do you know where it is, where it comes from? So, like, there are two very distinct sound shapes, like, or tastes that I can tell without looking that this is your song. One is those space ocean whales, is just like very, very personal. And then accompanying this, which are like, you know, they are breathy. Those tracks are like almost from another space. They have beats, but they tend to be more astrophysical. And then there is this bravado overspilling stuff, like beats that have, you know, this joint you did with D-Trends. Something like, and another one shortly before that. Both of them, they, you know, I immediately see Conor McGregor for whatever reason. His walk, this, you know, this is what I immediately get in my head. Do you know what it did? Like,
I think Conor McGregor. It's funny because the immediate picture of Conor McGregor is fucking train spotting to me. So I always hear in my head is fucking Stripe being Scottish, and so that's fucking hilarious. But I don't know. I think I've always really liked big chords and big sounding synthesizers. So like those songs that I have where it's like one synth, like the collab with D-Trends was one synthesizer and then a bass synthesizer. And then I fucking threw an arpeggiator on the chords, and then I threw a delay on those, and I recorded them separately so I could use the delay version for the verse that no one's rapping on, and then one for like the chorus, which is like the big, loud, heavy bass, move around space.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think it's just like I've never really been good at drums. Never been good at drums. I've never really programmed drums very well, and I've never been good at tuning drums or coming up with like rhythmic patterns. I think I always like had everything snapped to the grid for so long that like all the drum patterns sounded similar to me, so I just made the same drum patterns for everything. That's like from the year 2000 to 2014, maybe 2017. Mm-hmm. And so like it always just sounded the fucking same to me, so I never like cared about drums. And I think now as I'm getting deeper into music, I'm enjoying more rhythmic elements of percussion and drum breaks and having fun chopping up like stone drums, ugly face breaks, or chopping up piccolos out of pocket drum loops and just having a lot of fun with them, man. I think that's like the biggest fucking difference to where I was 5 years ago to now is like I'm embracing the actual beat part of beats instead of just like the chord, note, lead aspect of it, where I'm just like having fun, like writing the actual music. I'm having fun. Like, I think I'm doing more producer like work now because I'm enjoying every facet of the song instead of just like making a simple 4 on the floor drum loop and then fucking calling it a day and then adding like cymbals for, you know, whatever it is for transitions or variation every now and then because I'll get bored, you know. So I think that's the biggest change nowadays. And then I think that the big whale ones that you're talking about, the big like outer space songs, I think that's really just the magic of reverb and chords with 7 to 10 notes in it. It just sounds fucking huge and it sounds like from another planet, and I really like that sound. So I always like I gravitate towards that a lot.
Basically means you do not have a lot of gear apart from Reason, right? It's going to ask for an oddest piece.
Of gear.
Of gear. Like sometimes people have such weird boxes that they refuse to give up. You had this coffin, right? The Reason coffin.
Oh.
That's technically gear. There you go. It's Reasons, right?
Yeah, it's just a huge fucking mixer. I definitely that's a goal for this year is to clean that up. There's this one guy from Germany who's just a real stand-up guy. He sent me this fucking this cool little thing that I've spent a little bit of time on called the vocal modular, and I think
interesting.
I'm gonna be spending a lot of time with that. His name is Nikolai. I think people call him Bear. Really fucking cool guy though, man. He sent me my first synthesizer ever, and then James 2 as well sent me a. I think I put it in some sort of case to bring it to work with me because I was fucking with it a little bit. In a bag of some sort. But that's, I think it's called the Hive, and it's like fucking.
Oh, the touchy, the capacitor?
Yeah, man. It has like 60 fucking VCOs in it or whatever. It's fucking nutty, dude. It's a lot of fun. Let me see if I got it. Man. Forgot it was right behind you.
Nice.
Look at this. It's just a fucking circuit board.
Late.
Yeah. And it's really fucking cool. I haven't plugged it in yet because I'm trying to find it. I got to get a DC cable to hook it up. But I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos on it and like how each one of these different things, like all of this is touch sensitive. So, but it's like raw circuits. So if I have like moisture or lotion on my fingers, it's not going to play the full volume because it's not getting direct contact with my skin. Super wild, fucking crazy. These two are probably like going to be my go-to hardware. And then I just got, and then I just got my first ever XLR cables in the mail the other day. I think it was like Monday or something like that. So I'm finally going to hook up a small mixer that I have and see if I can get it working with my, words. If I can get it working with my little M audio guy here. And
interface,
thank you. God damn. Sorry. If I can get it working with my interface so I can actually record shit, because what sucks is I didn't think about it because I've never worked with hardware, right? So the vocal modular, when you create a patch and then you like play like a sequence and you save the sequence, you're really happy with said sequence. If you turn it off, it goes away forever. And because
you can actually save. I need to send you. There is a way to save at least patterns on that thing can be saved.
Okay, I haven't really looked into it. I think I was just in the zone of like discovery. I was just on the zone of discovery. So I was like, and then I was trying to, because I do everything like mobile. So I was like in my work truck on my break, and I was like, all right, cool. So if I take a auxiliary cable and I'll plug that in my computer and do that, and then I was like, no, fuck, I can't record on my computer unless I use an interface. I was like, fuck, all right, so maybe I'll bring my interface to work. And I was like, fuck, I don't have enough plugs in the truck. So I was like, all right, I need to get some XLR cables. We're going to get a mixer going. I'm going to plug shit into where it needs to go. And then I'm going to just record stuff and actually have like things recorded that I've done. Because for now, like I have like a couple of videos on my phone and the audio is like shit because it's playing analog sound off of like a toy speaker because it's so small, because it's like a small thing. So it's like you don't really feel what it sounds like. As opposed to when you like plug in with headphones and shit. So I want to actually get like things recorded and saved that way.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to start sending to the homies.
Like, how did you get into how did you get aware of sidechain?
I found sidechain, or I met drums through Session-In. Through Battle Lab, and then he mentioned it in one of the Friday nights that we were doing a session in Zoom, and he was like, "Yeah, man, like come through. Like I mostly just want to like talk about the process and talk about what I'm doing and share ideas with like-minded people and fucking get together and play music and fuck with stuff." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. That's what's up, man." And then like he just kind of disappeared. And like it'd be like every couple months he'd show up, and I was like, "Where'd he go, man? I miss drums." And I was like maybe. And then I forget if Smokes told me or something, but he was like, "Yeah, man, you got to jump in that sidechain shit." And I was like, "It was either I don't know who it was, man. We know too many fucking people, but it was either RTO, Pin, Smokes, or somebody else. I don't know." There's too many options. But I remember somebody was like, "Oh, dude, jump in on a Thursday," and I was like, "Oh, for sure." And then I was like, "Oh, fuck yeah, let's go." And so like sidechain just became the way of life, and with the most options on a Discord server I've ever seen in my life, anything that you could possibly think or dream of, we have a channel for it.
Including
tinfoil.
Tinfoil.
Indeed. But like it's like it became like I don't know, like it became like instant family, dude. Like everybody in there is like, at least people that are active. There's way too many fucking people in there, but the people that are like actively responding and communicating on a regular basis, like I feel like I gained mad homies just from that. And like some of these people are like really good fucking friends. I talk to you like all the fucking time. And you're on the other side of the world. Never met you in real life. Met one of my best friends through there, Lincoln. He lives like 30 minutes from me. Would not have met him through there. So I feel like there's so many people on there who are like sharing ideas and sharing concepts. And I think that was like the reason I stayed, because like that kind of shit I wish I found when I was like making those drum loops 10 years ago that all sounded the same and I was bored with them, because like I didn't have anybody to like tell me like, hey, that's fucking whack. Donald Smokes was the first motherfucker to look me in the eyes and be like, it's fun, but it's super whack. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's very, very much the same over and over again. And it's just, he's like, maybe some people like that, but I can't let you play that in my presence. I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, you gotta have more fun with it, man. It sounds like you're bored. And I was like, fuck, all right. And I mean, like really think about like what I'm doing. And I think that kind of sparked, this had to be like 2 or 3 years ago. That kind of sparked me like into a journey of falling in love with music and actually like figuring out what I'm doing when it comes to creating synthesizer patches, or figure out what it is I'm doing when I'm changing drum samples and editing them and fucking, so I think that's like, correction. I would not be where I am today music wise if it wasn't for Donnell Smokes. And I got to say the same thing for like everybody in Sidechain and everybody in Session-In, because I think there were so many people that were like really pushed me to like try new things and learn new shit. So shout out to everybody in Session-In, shout out to everybody in Sidechain. Man, everybody involved.
The power of community, I guess. Like a good community, a working community.
100%. I think that I always kind of looked at everybody in Session-In as like the big brothers, man. Like they were all just like, do something else, man. Try something else, or like, hey, I've heard better from you, like, oh shit. And then like push me to try to like create better and more like interesting things, So I don't know. It's fun. I don't even remember what the fuck the question was, but there's an answer for it.
Neo Tokyo is about to explode.
Any favorite disaster? Something that went super wrong but was still hilarious, or even like a learning moment.
I think my entire experience with VCV Rack and My Rack, which are both like emulators for modular synthesis, or I guess modular building, really is what it is, because you're just building modular synthesizers. I think those were like really cool learning moments, because it really taught me like in Reason things automatically connect when you like drag them. So like if I click an instrument and drag it onto one of the windows, it'll be like, cool, your instrument's hooked up to the mixer, which is hooked up to a limiter, which is hooked up to, whatever, blah, blah, blah. In My Rack, it's like, here's 2 in and outs, start from scratch. And I was like, oh shit. And then like, because it's modular, it's not like keyboard based music, it's fucking sequencer / drum music. And so like really having fun and just hitting the screen record button and fucking twisting knobs in the most digital way possible. So I guess scrolling knobs, man, it's just pressing on a knob and going up with it and down, but like, I think that's like a lot of fun. Like, and I learned so much from that because it was like, okay, if I attach an LFO to this, it like made me work better with my own music in Reason because I knew like I got ideas of things to put into my mod matrix. So like, oh, I want LFO3 to change the bandpass filter of fucking oscillator 2 on this 3 oscillator instrument. And I want LFO3 to be slow as fuck, so I'm gonna put something that makes the LFO slower in my mod matrix. So like I'll base the LFO rate by the speed of the envelope 4 filter, and I'll turn the envelope 4 filter really slow so that it like percentage wise makes it like a fucking 3-minute rise and fall for the LFO, like just because it's fun. And like you can just sit there and you can hear the difference in harmonic frequencies and everything changing slowly as you go, so I think that's like, I think that was probably the funniest shit that I did because it was just like took forever to like get my mind wrapped around it. And then once I got it, I was like, oh, this is fun. We're just doing dumb shit. This is going to be great. And I'm going to record everything and I'm just going to chop it all up. And then I made like weird shit. And like a lot of that's on Stranger Things pack I did with Piccolo. And fuck everybody, man. Did that with Piccolo. Don Out Smokes, I think. Keys and Mogul was on that. I think that was just us 4 who did that. But all the shit on there was mostly stuff from my rack that I just recorded.
Fire. Is it so that you record it and then you chop it up in Reason in a sampler? You put it into a sampler?
No, I just I converted it into a WAV file and then I dropped it into Reason and then like added some mastering effects. Or a little bit of like variation through panning or something like that. But everything was mostly done in my rack for those.
Nice.
From what I remember, this is also like quite a while ago. So I remember at least half the shit that I created within the Stranger Things pack was definitely done on my rack. But I think that was probably the most fun I had as far as like goofy shit that I've done because it was just like super goofy. Although I'll go back to 1998. I don't know why. Might have been from some anime I was watching as a small child, but I thought I'd make like a weird like noise, and it became a song named that. How you spell it, I will not tell you. But it was basically me just singing in weird noises, and then a sound effect that we found on Google on fucking dial-up and downloaded of somebody like pissing, and then it was just that with like a weird like bass slap in the middle of it. It was fucking crazy. But I think I have that file. I'll send to you on a
excellent. Yes, please.
On another day. We will not put that in the interview, but that was probably a lot of fun that I had with my brother when I was like 8 years old. That shit was goofy as fuck.
Where would you go to would Reason cease to exist? Like they close the doors, they cancel support, the software dies off.
The most reasonable thing to do would be to jump on Ableton because I currently own it. So I definitely do that. But I'd also probably get more like hardware focused. I had a lot of fun at NAMM. I would say, what was the synthesizer that I fucked with at NAMM? That was a lot of fun. It's escaping me. But there was a little sequencer pad situation. I'm not a hardware guy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sequence there that was called the Polyend play that was a lot of fun. And I watched, this chick was showing me how to use it, and she kept saying all these different things to me about it. And I was like,
the tracker? The Polyend tracker? Mm-hmm.
No, there's a Polyend play that is like,
the small one, the Game Boy version of it.
Yeah. And she was just like, she did wild shit in a matter of seconds, and she's trying to explain it to me. I was like, I don't know what the fuck you just said. And she was like, she just laughed at me, and I was like, but can I just watch you music because it's fucking fascinating? And she's like, yeah, for sure. And I was like, all right, cool. And she made like a dope ass song in like 10 minutes, and I was like, okay, so I want to buy one of those, and then read the fucking manual front to back 10 times, and then I'll become a genius at it, and I'll rock the fuck out of that. I think Lincoln just got one, and I'm like, fuck, hella jealous. I want one too. So I might just save up for one, and fucking we'll become the Polyend champions, and we'll start fucking with that, and that'll be my digital hardware, and then I'll have my 2 analog synths that you and James got me, and I'll make some weird fucked up shit. It'll be great. It'll be excellent.
Let's assume AI somehow gets wildly accepted in music and production. Like how do you fit in? Where do you see the advantage of Critikaal, the Maximus?
I think that we already use AI in so many other things. You know, I don't think it's going to be this like huge, you know, and I'm sure it's going to impact the industry for sure, but I'm not really necessarily part of the industry, right? I'm an independent, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So the fact that a robot can do it better than me isn't really that, you know, like obviously at this moment it can't, but the future, if it could, a robot's better than me in something, it's already been the case. Robots have known how to do math thousands of times better than we have for years. You know, like you could do something on Microsoft Excel that'll take me an hour to draw or write with a pencil, you know, but on like Microsoft Excel with shortcuts, it's like automatically adds everything up and you're good to go. I know that's technically not AI, but the concept is still there. Like AI is it's an entity of intelligence in a computer of some sort. And at least that's how I look at it. So the idea of it being more impactful to the music industry isn't really surprising to me, but I don't think it'll really affect it, because if anything, music will sound so much the same, so much more than it already does, that I think people will probably lean towards actual played music by humans, because it'll be different. Because we do things wrong on purpose, and AI does not grasp that, right? So like I'll do things with chords that, you know what I'm saying? Like AI is not going to be like, oh, let me add these ridiculous chords in here because they sound cool. AI is going to be like, oh, this sells. This is what, you know, 80% of songs made in the last 10 years did. So I'll do that, you know? Whereas like for me, the influence I have from songs from the last 10 years is very different from the influence artificial intelligence is going to have. So I think there's going to be, I understand the concern that people have, especially people who are in the industry who are working in like studios and shit, because that kind of sucks. So you're not going to be, people are going to rely on AI instead of people because it's going to be cheaper, and that's fucked up. But I think that in time, which is also fucked up to say because we're talking about people's lives. So it's like, don't worry, in 10 years, people will give a fuck about you again. It's like, well, no, what am I going to do for 10 fucking years, right? But I think that overall, it won't be this thing that takes over. And if it is, then, you know, whatever. Like, I think we adapt. That's what we do as a species. So if that means we're all making noise music and just fucking cranking up the decibels to 8,000 on the on the fucking EQ and just listening to that till our ears bleed, then that's what we'll do and we'll enjoy it. But I think like there's a lot of concern that AI is going to become like super creative, but I don't think that's possible for it to be creative on its own. And it'll just, the AI that will be cool will be the AI that we use as a tool to create things that are more creative.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really see, at least in my lifetime, there being a place where AI is coming up with fresh ideas that nobody's thought of.
A creative director, right? Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah,
a good
like,
point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. And that's my concept on the whole AI thing. But
Mm-hmm.
for anybody who's, I don't know, man, I don't really see AI taking away someone's job. I see it being used as a tool to make someone's job easier. And then maybe like 200 years, our great grandkids will have to deal with, you know, the fall of man and robots taking over the world. And, you know, fucking God bless them, you know, best of luck. You got this.
Since it's not going to be AI, who would you play your funeral? Band, dead or alive?
Epic and morbid at the same time. Probably just one of my friends, dude. I just have somebody play some cool shit. Fucking, I don't know. Be fucked up, but I can put in my will, like, hey, get stolen drums to play at my funeral, no matter what happens, no matter the cost. Get him there. Have him play a 10-minute set if that's all you can afford. I don't give a fuck. You know, I don't know. Probably just the homies, dude. For real, that's what I would want people to listen to. I share everybody in Sidechain, Session-In, like all the homies I fuck with musically. Anybody I know on a day-to-day basis knows people's names by now. Like, they like, oh, I know that one guy you're telling me about. Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah, he makes cool shit. Everybody. You included, sir. My fucking coworkers have listened to Sidechain playlists several days of every week. They'll hear songs. They know remixes that Slot Funk Dust has made. They know remixes. They know flips that fucking Donald Smokes has made. They've heard fucking every album that Piccolo's made. They've learned lyrics to rap songs that fucking, yeah, man. Everybody. I sonically influence everyone I come in contact with Sidechain and Session-In homies on a regular basis.
Do you listen to other music a lot these days? Do you have a lot of time?
Yeah, absolutely. I have playlists on Spotify of people that I fuck with outside of like my people I know circle. There's two people in drum bass that I really like right now. Imanu, IMANU. Sweet voice crack right there. And then the Critikaal project, CARACAL project, I believe. They make some fucking crazy drum bass shit that I really like right now. I really like a lot of the stuff that. No, my brain's not working. I'll open up the playlist, so I'll cheat. Too many names, bro. Too many things. My brain just throws out shit all the time. It's like, is this a life or death situation? You'll forget. Like, oh, thanks. That's exactly what I wanted to do. I'm listening to a lot of. I almost said Ja Freedom, but that's a session. I mean, if you don't know who Ja Freedom is, fuck with him. He's dope. He makes fire shit. I'm listening to a lot of Noisia, which is like dubstep, drum bass kind of shit. Listening to a lot of Ivy Lab, which is like electronic It's almost like electronic hip hop stuff. Fuck with them heavy. They're super dope. Who else? I listen to a lot of Matthew Jameson. That's a sidechain homie. I've been listening to a lot of Black Odyssey. Recently played. All the people, every one of my playlists is so heavily like induced with sidechain homies that it doesn't even fucking, it's not even a real life thing. I've been listening to a lot of Coast Contra for hip hop shit. I'm listening to a lot of Malik Elijah. That dude's been making really cool stuff. Been listening to some Scoop Ellington for hip hop shit. He makes some good stuff. D Smoke, lots of good stuff from them, or from him, I should say. And that's it mostly. A little bit of Moses Sumney as well, just for like weird abstract shit. Like I really like his ability to make really wild records that are mostly just his voice, and it's insane. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Yeah, for the most part, I do just listen to the homies, I guess. While looking through this, I've said like 5 different people that are on the playlist that are just sidechain homies. Not just sidechain homies, the sidechain homies. My bad.
Now, finally, the most important question, Crit, how do you avoid mad people?
How do I avoid mad people?
Yes. Well, the proper term was a mad bitch. I thought I can broaden this up, but it doesn't work this way. So I guess
I will broaden it up for you. If somebody's upset and they're upset with me, I think the first thing I do is probably talk in the most unenergetic voice I could possibly muster, and just stay as calm as possible. Because if there are people who are upset and they're good people and they like aren't unreasonable, that usually calms them down. If somebody's upset at you and it's like there's no way they're not going to be upset at you, talking in calm voice probably going to piss them off. But that's not my fault. I'm not responsible for somebody being pissed off unless it's something I specifically did and which I'd apologize for, because I like to recognize where I've made mistakes and be straight up about it. But as far as like angry people in general who are just mad all the fucking time, I just usually avoid them at all costs. Because I feel like that's like a huge damper on energy. And I think that's why, like, I think even the way that I make music, a lot of my shit's very like chill and laid back because life is chaotic enough. And so like I use music as an escape from busy schedules, running around, being stressed out about time, not being able to finish stuff that like is high on my priorities because there's too many things that are high on the priorities, you know. So I make music that has those space whale sounds because it fucking calms me and brings me to a place of like, it'll be okay. Tomorrow I can try again. So I think that's how I avoid whatever you said that I'm not going to repeat.
Mad people. Mad personalities.
Yeah, angry
weird
people.
Humans.
Angry people just, they need to go to therapy. They need to fucking chew some gum. They got to take a deep breath. There's so many options, you know? So if you're upset and you got something to be upset about, there's reason that makes sense. If you're upset about everything, it's deeper than that. And you got to search for the reason why you're fucking mad at everything. Because you can't blame everything but yourself or everything besides yourself forever. You know, it's only so long you can blame everyone else before you're like, maybe I'm fucking up. And that's okay, you know? And I would never say that to somebody who's pissed off because they're just make it way worse. But I definitely find the easiest way to leave the situation and continue on with my day because I don't need that shit.
final question that Matt brought up.
All right, final.
I just because it is an interesting question, and he was asking how people deal with the low places, like when you hit a low place right after meeting a mad person, and you go into your low place. How do you get out of there?
Dude, I will drop some bars from my therapist on you today. I'm gonna butcher it. That's just how it's gonna go. But he said in several different ways, very similar things. If you've learned how to do something wrong, that means you have potential to learn something right, because you have the potential to learn. So regardless if you did it wrong, you still have a chance to do it right. You just haven't found it yet. And once you accept that it's like something that is attainable and it's not, like this end of the world situation where I'll never do this, I'll never be this, it's impossible, blah, blah. If you say like, okay, so I know now that was wrong, I can now make a decision and find out if that's the right one. And if it's not, I know I can make another decision because I was capable of doing that. I think that's the reality, is that it's not that nothing is possible or that things are impossible. It's just that we get stuck in our own heads and we don't allow ourselves to realize that we are capable of finding a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And because we put this wall up of it's impossible, or I'm in a low place and there's no way to escape, we put that wall there and we stare at that wall and accept that wall to be the end all be all wall. You know what I'm saying? But really, you just, if you have the ability to look at that and say, I put that wall there, there's a possibility. I've just found a way to make it impossible. So if I can come up with a way to make it impossible, I can definitely come up with a way to make some form of whatever I want possible. Like if you're in a really and it's different for everybody. It's such a blanket question, but I think it's important regardless, because I think with enough people answering it, you'll figure out what works for you. But there's people who are in depression that you can't escape with a happy thought, or somebody sharing a good quote with you. There's shit that you need medication for. There's shit that you need in intense therapy for. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But I think that we live in an era where the normal that we're so convinced exists is what we see on fucking Instagram. But nobody fucking knows what it is outside of Instagram, except for the people that know you, right? Or the people that you're close with and you communicate with and share things on a more intimate level with, at the very least, right? So I think once we're able to figure out what we need to do in order to push past a roadblock or whatever, it makes it a lot easier. But it's too fucking easy to stay in that spot and stay in the wallow, So for all the homies out there that were raised toxic and on promises of masculinity being the savior for everything, we could sit there and we can complain and we could be sad, but that's the easy way out. You gotta keep fighting. You gotta push through. But low key, this shit. It's not weak to wallow, and it's not weak to put something down and keep going for something else, or changing your mind, or compromising, or whatever. It's weak to sit there and do nothing. And I think that it's too easy for some of us who have a lot of I'll call them mental hangups. It's easy for a lot of us to give up, but I think that we all have it in us the strength to push forward and do whatever. I feel like I'm fucking on a soapbox of some kind, but I don't know. Friends are everything, man. People to talk to. Don't push people away. Communicate, share your feelings. It's embarrassing. It's vulnerable. So is life. And if we're not embarrassing and we're not vulnerable, then we're one step closer to becoming AI, and we don't want that. Okay.
Word up.
That's my final thought on that.
That's. Thank you for bringing it home. It's like the distinction.
I had to tie it back.
It is beautiful. No, thank you very much.
Hey man, thanks for having me on. Hey, Matt and I have had conversations before. I don't know. I feel like there's, as I said, it's not going to be the one thing that somebody says that's going to be the changes your whole life. It's going to be bits and pieces you hear from other people, or somebody who's in an exact situation as you are. Maybe they will have the key, the keynote that you're like, oh shit, that's what I'm missing. But like, don't expect it to be from one person. Expect it to take time and allow it to take time.
Kind of very similar to the music journey, isn't it?
Yeah. I think so, yeah. It's probably just my sort of weird, fucked up philosophy that I created for myself. Take your time.
Mm-hmm.
But I have different drives and different goals that allow me to do that. So it's very specific to me, but maybe it's specific to somebody who will be watching this. So shout out to anybody that's watching this. Shout out to the Sidechain homies. Shout out to the Session-In homies. Shout out to my grandma and my dad. Yeah. Even my mom, dude. Fuck it. Shout out my mom. Why not? I'm just kidding.
Shout out to you, Craig.
Oh, thanks.
And thanks for taking your time. This is
thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. I'm now one of those. I'm now one of the homies who sat down with Bear and had a wild conversation that was a roller coaster. What a ride.
Thank you. No, honestly.
Yeah, I'm fucking around. I'm joking around, but I'm sincere as well. Thank you for having me, but I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. And I'll see you on Thursday.